Hey, what's up, guys? BJ Dell back with episode 2 of Let's Draw. Today's video, I'm going to show you how to draw a unicorn. Unicorns are always popular, but I'm going to do something a little bit different and show you a stuffed animal unicorn. So I'm going to walk you through the complete process from start to finish. You're going to start with a blank page, go all the way through the sketch process, the lines, the color flats, the highlights, and the shadows. So let's get into it. All right, so back for episode 2 of Let's Draw. Today's drawing, kind of want to do something with a unicorn, but make it a little bit different. So what I'm thinking about is doing a unicorn that's a stuffed animal, so it's going to kind of have that slouched over look to it. Let's go ahead and start. Got the canvas open, of course, using Procreate with the iPad Pro 12.9-inch version with the Apple Pencil. Let's go ahead and show you here. I've got just the background color in layer 1. So, like I said in my previous video, I usually use the light blue color to do the sketching. So I'm going to start out just by kind of sketching the body here. As far as the brush that I'm using, I'll put that in the description. It's called the Natural Inker Brush. It can be found on the Procreate forums. Get the general shape of the body here. I'm kind of have it tilted to the side. And have the legs coming out here. So I kind of want it to have that frumpy stuffed animal look to it. So of course unicorns are always popular, so unicorns are another thing that I've drawn an absolute ton of over the past, I don't know what it's been, year and a half. Worked on a playing card game called Unicorns and Zombies. Kind of pitted the two factions against each other. So character card wise, there was an absolute ton of unicorns. This one I'm going to draw a little bit different than how I drew the unicorns in that series. Those were a little bit more stylized for the game, so this is going to be just a little bit more cutesy. I guess those kind of had an edge to them. If you want to check those out, it can be found on Kickstarter, was where the game was launched at. If you just go to Kickstarter and look for Unicorns and Zombies, they're in the production phase right now for that. So kind of excited to see how that turns out. Get the head there. Let's put the part for the nostrils there. Do the ears coming off here. Like I said with the last video, honestly, I go pretty loose with the sketch phase. I start adding details and getting everything where I want it in the actual inking phase. This is just more to make sure that everything is placed where it goes. See here, I'm doing the eyes a little bit different than the last one. These are more like the button eyes, so it has a little bit more of a just kind of innocent look to it. Let's go ahead and do the mane coming down here. Make these kind of thick so it looks like a big fabric, chunks of yarn type of thing. Do the arm kind of slouchy here. This arm's going to kind of sit behind on this side. I don't really like. I'll just go back through and kind of shape stuff up a little bit to get all the sizes correct so it looks like it would sitting on a shelf. Get the tail on there too. Probably throw in some patches around. Give it that stuffed animal look. Maybe like it's seen some better days. Little Velveteen Rabbit style thing going on. All right. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So, going to go back up here to the layers, add a new layer on top, go back down to our lines layer, go to the magic wand and go to opacity, and then drop this down. Just kind of want that to be the guide. Don't really want to see it too much. So, we'll go back up here to layer 2 then, and then start on our lines. Like I said with previous videos, I always, for some reason, start with the eyes. I don't know why. Kind of gets everything where it needs to be, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to keep these videos to around a half an hour, so on some of these, you're going to see I usually take longer on a design than a half an hour, so these might not be 100% perfect like I would usually try to get them, but I really want to keep these videos something that you can kind of sit down in one setting and they're not too much to bear through, but at the same time, I really want to get the whole design process in there, so I want to show everything in real time too, just because I just don't think that watching a time lapse of doing this and doing it, a 5-minute video is really going to get you too much information. At least doing it this way in real time, I can talk you through everything that I'm doing. You can kind of see the strokes that I'm making and also see the menus that I go to when I start switching things around. So. All right, got the head there, so let's go ahead and do the ears here. And with line weight on the ears, I kind of want the bottoms to be a little bit thicker since they're going to be a little bit more shadowed. And the same thing over here. And to get that line weight, you just press a little bit harder starting out and just kind of pull up the pressure on the pen as you go along. And it gives you that nice tapered line. As you can see, I do a lot of strokes and do a lot of erasing. Just really particular about it having the right flow. And of course you can see here the pen's starting to pull up. And I'm not sure, I always blame it on it being close to the pen going dead maybe. That seems when it happens the most. I just checked it. I know I'm around like, 16%. So hopefully I can get this done before the pen dies. Just curious too, if you guys found this video because you are using the iPad Pro. It'd be interesting to hear if anybody got the new one. I talked about that in a previous video that I was holding off just because I didn't really see the bump that I would expect from, getting a new piece of electronics like that. So if you got any comparisons, feel free to let me know in the comments. I would like to kind of hear some thoughts of what your guys' experience is with it so far, if you've got one. Really looking forward to the Photoshop coming out this year. And I know that's probably where you're going to see some of the difference between the older and the newer versions, but like I said, I know I talked to somebody that had one of the new ones and had him pull up Procreate as I pulled it up and made a canvas the exact same size between them, and the number of layers that were maximum available were exactly the same. So I just don't know if Procreate maybe hasn't optimized the app for the new iPads or what the deal is, but when you don't get any more layers or any noticeable difference, I don't really see what the point is in upgrading. So if you don't have one and you're looking to get one and want to, stay on the cheap, if you go with an older model, that might be the best bet. I would definitely recommend the Pro though. The studio that I teach graphic design at, we got just the regular iPad with the Apple Pencil. Before when they first came out with them, the Pros were the only ones that could use the pencil, and then the new versions of the iPads, just the regular iPads, you can use the pencil, but the limitations are pretty noticeable right away. I think with the 4500 by 5400 canvas, I'm pretty sure it's, 18 layers that's maximum. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but honestly, that's quite a bit. I don't usually max it out unless I'm doing a bunch of different line layers and forget to merge them when I start to add colors and the highlights and the shadows. But with the regular iPad, I think the 4500 by 54, I think you max out at I think it was 4 layers, which is not a lot to work with. That gives you a line layer. It gives you the colors layer, the flats, and then highlights and shadows. But if you're wanting to go in with that extra highlight layer, you don't have the option to do that. If you kind of want to keep your sketch layer in there as you're doing other stuff, you can't do that. So I see that as being really limiting. Plus, I personally love the 12.9 size. I think it's about the perfect screen size. I'm just going to do these lines here to show the different parts of the tail. There we go. I'll go ahead and put some in here too. And of course, all these principles that I'm showing you, these can all be used in different ways on, if you have a Surface, if you're using Clip Studio or something like that, you can use these on that. If you are on the desktop and you've got Photoshop and you've got, a drawing tablet, you can use them on there. The principles are the same as far as the way you use the layers and the way you do the shadows and everything else. It's all the same. I'm going to go ahead and merge these together, and then I'm going to make a new layer because I need to do the snout part, and I know there's going to be some overlap in the lines. I'm going to switch back to my natural anchor and do the streamline. To do these big swooping motions like this, it's easier to get them to look good if you use that. Of course, they didn't match up exactly, but I can fix those with a little bit of the eraser. Of course, this is kind of hard because I like that really swooping, just organic look of the way the lines run. And once you start erasing them, you've got to get that exact swooping motion. You can't have any of the indents, so that makes it kind of rough sometimes. Should try one of the gloves. I know I see those a lot in some of the YouTube videos. They go on this part of the hand and it lets your hand slide a little bit better across the screen. So I might try one of those later and see. I do have a matte screen protector on here though that helps quite a bit. I like it too. It's got a little bit of grit, and I'm sure in the video you can actually hear as my pen slides across. It sounds different than on the just the regular the regular glass screen. Seems to help out quite a bit. So it's got a little grit, a little bit of pull to it. So I found my lines look a lot better since I got that. I'm gonna pull this back off the streamline now that I'm done with that longer stroke. Make some of these patches round and some of them squared. Just do this here for like the stitching. Whoops. Alright, and then I'm going to go back to Streamline to get this circle area here. Erase some of this too and do a little bit of a kind of scrunched overlap where it looks like the fabric is kind of bunched in on itself. It's one of the things I don't get to draw unicorns. It just will never die. It will never go out of style. It's crazy how popular unicorns always are, and I think probably will be. I don't see it really being one of those things that falls out of style. Of course, there's other stuff that's going to become more popular as a fad for a while. Of course, past few years, you've seen sloths kind of take off a little bit more. And then we need to connect this part up here, and I think that's about it for the lines then. Kind of want to bring this up and around, but I think we're just going to leave it like that. Actually, let's try that again. Yeah, because this needs to be, it's going to come up once we color this in. This center section needs to be a different color, so it's going to have to come out side of this arm here. It's not going to be able to overlap. I'm going to erase that real quick. And I'm going to make a new layer just to make sure I can get this right. That looks pretty good there. Just need to bring this up. It's always nice to notice something like that before you start coloring it in, because then you got to go back and mess around with your line layers again. So, all right, so we've got that. Looks pretty good. I want to do a couple more stitching parts on this, just to give that look of it being a pretty well-loved toy that's gotten a lot of use. I don't really like those stitches. Yeah, maybe the patches are enough. Let's just leave the patches. Okay, so now that we've got that, I'm going to combine these. Let's go ahead and turn off the layer for the lines for the sketch. This new layer that we added, we're going to put it behind or underneath the line layer, and then decide color-wise. I'm going to go with like a tealish blue color here. And then we're going to set layer 2 to reference. That way we can just drag and drop the colors onto layer 3. And as you see, that filled and everything because this has got a gap right there, so I need to go back in here and hit that real quick. There we go. Select our color again. Start dropping in some more. I think this year too, I want to do some videos on some of the other programs. So if there's something in particular that you guys want to see, feel free to let me know. Definitely want to do one on Clip Studio. It's been quite a while since I've used that one. It used to be Manga Studio. I used that when I had the Surface Pro. Initially had the Surface Pro, upgraded the Surface Pro 2 when that one came out, and then around that time was when the iPad Pros came out, and I jumped ship over to the Apple side of things. The other ones ran really hot, and I wasn't a big fan of the screens. They were a little bit smaller, so I really dig the Pros here. All right, let's go ahead and let's do a pink color for this patch here. Do a pink one there. I'm going to do kind of a cream off-white color for the horn there. And then start going with the rainbow colors for the mane here. I think I'm going to add a couple more of these here too. Just get the full rainbow in there. Keep hitting the camera. I'm sorry, guys. Got a little bit close today, so. All right. Actually, what is it? Roy G. Biv. So let's change this one. Blue. And then got the purple. There we go. All right, and then for this, I'm going to kind of use those lines that I did as a guide. I didn't want them perfectly connected, so this is going to be a little bit more of a pain to color in, just because you can't do the drag and drop, and got to kind of get the everything to line up with the lines that I've got already. Of course, the first one you can go kind of sloppy, because the second one you can just even everything up. And you can kind of hear that screen protector as I'm doing this for sure. I might have to find a different way to set up the camera so I don't hit it. But I'm leaving that in there because that's one thing with my videos that I don't really want to do is I don't like to do the jump edits on them. Kind of like you guys just to see everything from start to finish. There's no cuts. There's no editing. There's nothing done in post whatsoever except, you know, adding the intro, outro, all that good stuff. I like to be really transparent with what I'm doing. So if I hit the camera like that, it's going to stay in the video. Hopefully that's something that you guys appreciate. I don't know. Maybe it's bad. And I'm not going to be able to get all these colors in there, but that's okay. I didn't want everything in there. I didn't want to look too busy, so. Actually, I'll probably put one more line in there. Go back to the green. I also want to thank you guys too, because as of yesterday, just hit over 500 subscribers, so that is pretty freaking awesome. So I appreciate it. One thing I'd really like to know too in the comments, I know I do a lot as far as around t-shirt design, and I know a lot of people have found me through the merch community, so really like to know as far as viewer-wise, are you guys in the print-on-demand platform? Did you find my channel and my videos that way, or are you just here for the art? Really curious as far as what you guys are getting out of the videos. So, all right, one thing I'm going to do too, as you can see, and this is personal preference, but The black against these colors sometimes is going to be a little harsh, especially in a case like this, to where it's like a little bit more cutesy. So the one thing you can do too is if you go up here to the line layer, instead of making your lines black, once you have the piece colored in with the flats, if you pick your main color here and just drop it down to a darker version of that color, and then go into your lines, hit select, hit them again, and hit fill, you'll see it's actually going to change those black lines to that darker color. It makes it a little bit more muted, a little bit more, I don't know, cutesy looking. It's hard to exactly put a name to it, but it just doesn't look as harsh and looks a little bit more natural. So that's another option I'm going to do on this one and leave it like that. We got all the flats laid in though, so let's go ahead and go and do our shadows. So we'll make a new layer, drop it in between the line layer and the color layer. I'm going to have the light source coming in this way. So everything on this side is going to be the darker area. Oops. And backed up too much, so I need to move those around again. Go back to this one. Just start filling in. Usually get one section done, and then go back up to my magic wand up here and hit that opacity. I'll drop that down a little bit. And with this, especially using this different line color, you got to be careful not to get it too dark, because the lines then are going to look kind of wonky. So let's go ahead and go there. And like I said in my previous video, I go back through then and erase, usually around the outer edge, just so you can see that, yes, that does have a shadow effect to it. So you can kind of tell that there are two different colors there. Another option too with shadows is, I do this sometimes. I won't probably in these videos just to keep them shorter, but a lot of times I'll go back in and add multiple shadow layers. So if I want a certain area darker, like this whole area on this side's, you know, dark already, but like this right here, let me do it just to show you. So this right here, since this is already dark, this part of the snout still comes over. So technically the shadow should still come over, but it can't because the shadow's already here. You're not going to see anything. So to do that, just add a new layer for shadows, and then adjust the opacity until it looks natural, that this is the same shadow coming across. And there you go. So you've got this shadow layer here, and then this shadow layer is laying on top of that. So we've got two different shadow layers. When you go back through and add more shadows, just make sure you switch back to the original layer with the shadows. That's an extra tip, something I didn't go over before, but yeah, I was working on some designs last night and used that and thought, okay, I need to include this in the next video then, so it worked out well. And same thing here, since this is one big shadow, I'm going to go back in. This part inside the ear is going to be a darker shadow, so we're going to use that extra layer there. Then go back to our other one and do that erase so you can tell. You can see I'm shadowing behind here because this horn that's coming out is going to kind of cast its own shadow. So you've got just the overall shadow, and then you've got the cast shadow from the horn. And then behind here is going to have some shadow to it. And with these, I'll put a shadow underneath these lines, since they're going to cast their own shadow with the light coming in from the direction there from the top. Same thing with these. Do a shadow under those to show that that line is casting a shadow there. Then also with these, each piece of the mane is sitting on top of the other one. So that top part of that mane is going to cast a shadow on the bottom since that light source is coming in from the top. Looks like I got a little part of the line there. Oops. And then just keep going with the shadows. We're getting in closer to the part that's going to be the highlight, so there's not going to be as much here. We're going to put a shadow under here. Okay, it looks pretty good for the shadows. I need a shadow around this belly here. So just get a line that kind of matches the stroke and the direction of the other line so it looks natural coming across. I want something too different in the direction the line originally goes. Just looks a lot better that way. And then this arm here is going to cast a little bit of a shadow. Do that there. All right. So that's done there. Let's go ahead and get the nostril here, and then we'll hit the highlights, and that'll be it. All right. Let's go to the white. We're going to go to our layers, do a new layer, and just start hitting the tops of these individual pieces where the light's going to be casting that highlight. And with these, like I said before, your highlights, you're probably going to have a couple highlight layers just because the way that the opacity works on the different colors. With these, they're all pretty close. I'm going to just use the same highlight layer on all these, but from time to time, you'll probably want to make multiple highlight layers just so you can get the opacity right across the different colors. This one will just do one for right now. I'm going to go ahead and hit the opacity here so we can get it to the right section or the right look. There we go. Looks good. Fix that color there. And don't worry if you mess up as you're going along. Once you get in closer doing stuff like this with the highlights and the shadows, you're going to see parts that you might have messed up on in the beginning. So feel free to jump back and forth between layers so you can tidy up any stray lines or anything like that. This one here. I think for some of these designs too, I'm going to go ahead and throw them up on t-shirts on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description just so you can kind of see what they look like as a finished product on a t-shirt. So like I said, I'll put that link in the description. If you want to buy one, hey, awesome. If you just want to go on and see what they look like as a finished for sale product, that is cool too. I'll love it when people start stealing those designs and putting them up. Just do a couple here, and then I'm going to do a shadows under those little bags real quick too. Just give them a little bit more weight and dimension. I don't know if I want to do a mouth or not. Let's toy around with this real quick. Some things like this I'll kind of wait until the last to do. Yeah, I think I'll do a little mouth. That's cute. Nothing too big, just Then I'll go back in with that extra shadow layer and give that just a little bit of a bump here so you can tell. All right, so that's it. Walked you through a stuffed animal unicorn design. All right, guys, that's it for episode 2 of Let's Draw. Once again, just want to thank everybody for subscribing. Hitting that 500 subscriber mark is awesome, and I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. If you haven't yet, make sure you do hit that like and subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications when I post new videos. Also, what do you want to see in the upcoming series of Let's Draw? Hit me in the comments, and you might see your idea brought to life on the screen. So as for me, I can be found online, bjdell.com, and on Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. So until next time, keep creating.